Right now, as you're watching this video, 5.1 billion people around the world are facing at least one serious legal problem they cannot solve. That's two-thirds of everyone alive. And here's what most people don't realize. Understanding how legal systems actually work gives you power. Power to protect yourself, power to navigate problems, power that 92% of people simply don't have. I'm going to show you everything about how legal systems function from the ground up, in plain language anyone can understand. By the end of this video, you'll know more about the law than most people learn in their entire lives. And trust me, what I'm about to share in slide 47 will completely change how you see justice forever. Let me be very clear. This is not legal advice, but it is the education system never gave you. Ready? Let's go. Legal systems touch your life every single day. When you wake up in the morning, property law protects your home. When you drive to work, traffic law keeps roads safe. When you buy coffee, contract law governs that transaction. When you get paid, employment law ensures fair treatment. Plus, this is where you do things like signing a lease for your apartment, agreeing to terms when downloading an app, or shaking hands on a business deal. 66% of Americans experienced at least one legal issue in the past 4 years. That means most people you know have faced something legal recently. The difference between those who handle it well and those who don't? Understanding. Most people think law is for lawyers. Wrong. Law is the operating system of society, and you need to know how it runs. Here's something wild. There are really only two major legal systems governing most of the world. Just two: common law and civil law. Everything else is built on these foundations. Civil law countries lean on codes, while common law ones prioritize judicial decisions and precedents along with legislation. Think of it like this. Civil law is like a recipe book where judges follow exact instructions. Common law is like cooking where chefs create new dishes based on what worked before. Which one affects you depends entirely on where you live, and I'll show you which countries use which system in the next few slides. Common law started in England over 800 years ago. Common law dates to early English monarchy when courts began collecting and publishing legal decisions. Later, those published decisions were used as the basis to decide similar cases. The magic word here is precedent. When a judge makes a decision, that decision becomes a guide for future judges facing similar problems. A precedent is a history of judicial decisions that form the basis of evaluation for future cases of a similar nature. Plus, this is like when your parents said, "Your older brother couldn't do that either." Past decisions guide future ones. The doctrine of stare decisis means judges are bound by the precedent principle. Stare decisis is Latin for stand by what has been decided. So where does common law rule? The United States, Canada, England, India, and Australia are generally considered common law countries. Because they were all once subjects or colonies of Great Britain, they have often retained the tradition of common law. See the pattern? The British Empire spread common law everywhere it went. So if you're watching from America, UK, India, Australia, Canada, or many African nations, you're living under common law right now. The key thing to remember: common law systems are adversarial instead of investigatory, with the judge moderating between two opposing parties. It's like a referee watching two teams compete. Civil law takes a completely different approach. Historians believe that the Romans developed civil law around 600 CE, when the Emperor Justinian began compiling legal codes. Instead of judges creating law through decisions, in civil law jurisdictions, the principle of stare decisis is absent. Judges don't make law. They apply it from written codes. In the civil law system, there is a codification system. Judges are not bound by the principle of precedent, so that the law becomes the main legal reference, and the judicial system is inquisitorial. Inquisitorial means the judge investigates, asks questions, searches for truth. Civil law countries include all of South America except Guyana, almost all of Europe, including Germany, France, and Spain, China, and Japan. That's a lot of the world. If you're in continental Europe, Latin America, or East Asia, civil law governs your life. The state of Louisiana in the United States uses bijuridical civil law because it was once a colony of France. So even within America, there's a piece of civil law hiding in plain sight. Stay with me. I'll show you why this matters for your everyday life soon. Now here's where it gets really interesting. South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe are bijuridical, meaning they follow a combination of both legal systems. Many modern jurisdictions have what are referred to as mixed legal systems. These legal systems combine elements from two or more legal traditions to reflect the unique needs of that jurisdiction. Plus, think of it like a buffet, taking the best parts from different cuisines. The Canadian province of Quebec has a mixed legal system that combines elements of both the common and civil law traditions. History shapes law. We can't forget religious legal systems. Comparative law includes common law, civil law, socialist law, canon law, Jewish law, Islamic law, Hindu law, and Chinese law. There are also legal systems that are religious-based, custom-based, or that incorporate a mix of all of the above. In many countries, religious law governs family matters like marriage and inheritance, while civil or common law handles other areas. Understanding which system applies where and when is the first step to navigating any legal situation successfully. Here's a concept that changes everything: the rule of law. The World Justice Project defines the rule of law system as one in which the government and its officials and agents are accountable under the law, and the laws are clear, publicized, stable, and fair. This means no one, not even the president or prime minister, is above the law. The rule of law affects all of us in our everyday lives. Although we may not be aware of it, the rule of law is profoundly important. Why should you care? Because where rule of law is strong, your rights are protected. Where it's weak, anything can happen. For the 7th year in a row, the rule of law has declined globally according to the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index 2024. Let that sink in. 7 years of decline. The rule of law again weakened in a majority of countries surveyed, with 57% showing declines. More than half the world is going backwards. But here's the good news. The global rule of law recession is slowing, and progress is possible. Some countries are turning it around. I'll show you which ones later. So who's doing it right? The top-ranked country in the 2024 WJP Rule of Law Index is Denmark, followed by Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Germany. Denmark scored 0.9, Norway 0.89, Finland 0.87, Sweden 0.86, and Germany 0.83, where 1 point is the highest level of compliance with the principle of the rule of law. Notice something? Nordic countries dominate. Their legal systems protect citizens, limit corruption, and deliver justice consistently. This is what's possible. Imagine an investor seeking to commit resources abroad. She would probably think twice before investing in a country where corruption is rampant, property rights are ill-defined, and contracts are difficult to enforce. Strong legal systems create wealth. Uneven enforcement of regulations, corruption, insecure property rights, and ineffective means to settle disputes undermine legitimate business and deter both domestic and foreign investment. Plus, this is like trusting a handshake deal. You need confidence the other person will follow through. Legal systems provide that confidence at massive scale. The World Justice Project measures rule of law using 8 factors. These are limited government powers, absence of corruption, order and security, fundamental rights, open government, regulatory enforcement, civil justice, and criminal justice. Each country receives a score and ranking on overall rule of law and on each factor and sub-factor. The index provides a basis for comparison across countries and regions. Remember these 8 factors. They're your checklist for evaluating any legal system you encounter. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: corruption. For the first time in 5 years, more countries improved than declined on the index factor measuring absence of corruption. This year, corruption declined in nearly 3/5 of countries. That's actually good news. The average improvement in anti-corruption score is 1.3%, small but significant. Corruption destroys legal systems from the inside. When judges can be bought, when officials demand bribes, the law means nothing. That's why fighting corruption is essential. Here's where things get scary. Between 2016 and 2024, people in 81% of countries have lost protections for their fundamental rights. 77% of countries show a weakening in governmental checks and balances, including oversight by legislatures, courts, civil society, and the media. This is why you need to understand legal systems. When you know your rights, you can defend them. Stay with me. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But there is hope. Some of the most improved countries in the 2024 index saw new, democratically elected governments take office. Voters in Brazil and Poland opted for change in each country's most recent national elections. Both countries had experienced some of the largest rule of law declines since 2016 before changing course in the past year. This proves that decline is not permanent. Citizens can demand better legal systems and get them. Now let's get practical. How do courts actually work? In common law systems, both parties to the dispute each use their lawyers to face in front of the judge. The parties each strategize in such a way. The judge presiding over a case determines which precedents are relevant and can be applied to that specific case. Plus, think of it like a debate competition. Each side presents their strongest arguments. The judge decides who wins based on rules and past decisions. Civil law courts work differently. Civil law judges must adhere strictly to the legal code and are responsible for questioning witnesses during trials. In civil law systems, comprehensive codes and statutes are designed to cover all scenarios, limiting judges to applying these laws to specific cases. Plus, it's like following a manual step by step. The judge checks if your situation fits the written rules, then applies the appropriate solution. Here's a huge problem. A 2020 report by the National Center for State Courts found that although state courts aim to resolve 75% of felony cases within 90 days, just 30% of cases were resolved within this time frame. Though national standards suggest that 98% of cases should be resolved within a year, just 83% met this expectation. Justice delayed is justice denied. When cases drag on for years, people suffer. Delays have real consequences. The longer it takes for a criminal case to be resolved, the more likely a defendant is to receive a lengthy sentence. Defendants face more severe sentences, even when the criminal justice system itself is responsible for the delays. That's right. The system causes delays, then punishes people more because of those delays. This is why understanding timing in legal matters is critical. A study of 136 U.S. courts by the National Center of State Courts found that none met national standards for timeliness in resolving cases. None. Zero. But some courts are faster. Every continuance filed in a case added an additional 3 weeks on average to the case duration. Each hearing increased the duration another 2 weeks. The lesson? Avoid unnecessary delays. Prepare properly. Get your documentation right the first time. Let's talk about something most people avoid: prisons. The United States leads the world in total number of people incarcerated, with more than 2 million prisoners. At any given time, this number was roughly equivalent to 25% of the world's total prison population. One country, 1/4 of all prisoners worldwide. That tells you something about how different legal systems approach punishment. As of February 2025, El Salvador had the highest prisoner rate worldwide, with over 1,600 prisoners per 100,000 of the national population. Cuba, Rwanda, Turkmenistan, and the United States rounded out the top 5. Although prison populations are increasing in some parts of the world, the natural rate of incarceration for countries comparable to the United States tends to stay around 100 prisoners per 100,000 population. 100 versus 500 plus per 100,000. That's a 5 times difference between similar countries. It is the length of sentences that truly distinguishes American prison policy. The mere number of sentences imposed would not place the United States at the top of the incarceration lists. The average burglary sentence in the United States is 16 months, compared to 5 months in Canada and 7 months in England. Same crime, 3 times longer sentence. Legal systems make vastly different choices about punishment. Here's the billion-dollar question. Evidence exists that a high incarceration rate does not actually increase public safety. Mass incarceration can also lead to several logistical issues, including prison overcrowding, which increases health risks and decreases the psychological well-being of those inside. Different legal systems are experimenting with alternatives: rehabilitation, community service, restorative justice. The debate continues. Here's something everyone needs to know. On an annual basis, 55 million Americans experience 260 million legal problems. A considerable proportion of these problems, 120 million, are not resolved or are concluded in a manner which is perceived as unfair. There is no income group, gender, race, or ethnic group, age group, or geographic area that does not face a substantial number of legal problems. This affects everyone, not just poor people, not just certain groups, everyone. Globally, the numbers are even more staggering. 1.4 billion people are unable to meet their everyday civil and administrative justice needs. 4.5 billion people are excluded from the opportunities the law provides. These are people who lack legal tools, including identity documents, land or housing tenure, and formal work arrangements. Without legal identity, you barely exist in the eyes of the law. More than half of the people surveyed in 45 countries said they had a legal problem within the last 2 years. Specific legal problems varied by country, but consumer and land disputes were among the most commonly reported, with an average incidence of 25% and 20% respectively. Plus, these are things like getting cheated by a seller, fighting over property boundaries, or disputing a landlord's charges. Why don't people get help? 1 in 2, 46%, of those who did not seek legal help for one or more problems cite concerns about cost as a reason why. 1 in 2, 53%, does not know if they could find and afford a lawyer if they needed one. Half the population doesn't even know if they can afford justice. This is why I'm making this video. Education is free. When people are faced with civil justice problems, most do not turn to courts and lawyers for assistance. More than half of those who sought legal help turned to a family member or friend. Less than 1/3 turned to a lawyer for assistance. Family and friends mean well, but do they really know the law? This is where self-education becomes your superpower. Legal problems don't just affect your wallet. Slightly more than 1 in 4 respondents reported having experienced a stress-related illness due to their legal problem. More than 1 in 5 respondents reported the loss of employment or need to relocate because of their legal problem. Legal problems become life problems. Your health, your job, your home, all connected to legal outcomes. Now here's something that can save you: alternative dispute resolution, ADR. A study of 449 cases revealed that mediation was capable of settling 78% of cases. 78%! That means most disputes can be resolved without going to court. Faster, cheaper, less stressful. This was true regardless of whether the parties had been sent to mediation by a court or had selected the process voluntarily. Choice or no choice, mediation works. What is mediation exactly? A neutral third party helps both sides find agreement. No winner, no loser, just solutions. A study published in the Harvard Negotiation Law Review found that 75% of participants in mediation were satisfied with the process and outcome. Plus, imagine 2 neighbors fighting over a fence. Instead of paying lawyers for years, they sit down with a mediator for a few hours and solve it. Arbitration is different. Here, a neutral party decides the outcome, like a private judge. Large dollar case awards were delivered on average as much as 5 times faster than court cases that reached trials. 76% of cases closed in 2024 settled before award. Most disputes resolve even before the arbitrator decides. Speed matters. Getting your life back matters. ADR delivers both. AAA mediation filings in 2024 reached $12 billion, settling in a median of 114 days, just under 4 months. Compare that to years in court. Awards for small and medium claims under $1 million were delivered in as little as 1.1 months. If you ever face a dispute, ask about mediation and arbitration first. It could save you years of stress. Let me tell you something crucial. Contracts rule modern life. Every time you click I agree, you're entering a contract. Every time you sign a lease, accept a job, or buy something online, contract law applies. Given the incomplete nature of the contracts that regulate business transactions, trading partners encourage reciprocal investments by establishing long-term business relations. Think about your phone plan, your gym membership, your employment agreement. All contracts governing your rights. Nobody reads contracts, but you should. The dispute resolution clause? That determines where and how any fight gets resolved. Court litigation was the most common standalone dispute resolution clause at 32%, followed by arbitration at 30% and mediation at 12%. Check your contracts. Know your options. This simple habit could save you thousands someday. Above all other laws sits the Constitution. This is the supreme law of the land. It sets the rules for everything else. The rule of law requires that the laws are clear, publicized, stable, and fair, and protect fundamental rights, including the security of persons and property. Your Constitution tells the government what it can and cannot do. It protects your freedoms from government overreach. Most constitutions divide government into three branches. Legislative makes laws, executive enforces laws, judicial interprets laws. Checks on the executive by the legislature, the judiciary, independent audit agencies, civil society, and the media are essential. When these branches check each other, no single group gets too powerful. Constraints on government powers are weakening in 59% of countries in 2024. When checks fail, rights disappear. Guard your Constitution. There are two main types of legal cases, criminal and civil. Criminal law: the government prosecutes someone for breaking society's rules. Theft, assault, murder. Civil law: private disputes between people or companies. Contracts, property, family matters. It's like the difference between being arrested by police versus being sued by your neighbor. Very different processes. In criminal cases, the prosecution must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a high bar. In civil cases, it's usually preponderance of the evidence, meaning more likely than not, just over 50%. Same facts, different standards, different outcomes. This is why some people are found not guilty criminally, but still lose civil lawsuits. Here's some good news. A majority of countries improved on ensuring effective criminal justice. The average improvement in criminal justice score is 1.2%. Small steps, but in the right direction. Criminal justice performance has improved in 54% of reviewed countries, more than half. Progress is possible. Civil justice faces bigger problems. Civil justice declines have slowed considerably since the height of the global pandemic, though problems delivering timely and independent civil justice have continued to spread. Under civil justice, performance decreased in 56% of countries compared to 66% last year. When civil justice fails, businesses can't enforce contracts, property rights become uncertain, families can't resolve disputes fairly. Let's be real about money and justice. People living in poverty experience more legal problems than those who are better off in 70% of countries surveyed. Economic status affects a person's ability to access justice, whether through formal legal processes or otherwise. More problems and less ability to solve them. This is the reality for billions of people. While gender is not a determining factor in whether someone is more likely to face a legal problem generally, the type of legal problem faced does often depend on gender. In 3/4 of the countries surveyed, women were more likely to experience family-related legal issues. Different people face different legal challenges. Understanding your specific risks helps you prepare. Here's what I promised earlier. The secret that changes everything. The index examines practical, everyday situations, such as whether people can access public services and whether a dispute among neighbors can be resolved peacefully and cost-effectively. The law isn't about courtrooms and lawyers, it's about everyday life. More than half of those surveyed who experienced a legal problem said it was difficult or nearly impossible to pay the costs incurred to resolve it. When you understand this, you stop fearing the law and start using it. Here's your first actionable step. Know your legal system. Is your country common law or civil law? What are your constitutional rights? The importance of comparative law has increased enormously in the present age of internationalism and economic globalization. Google your country legal system type right after this video. Spend 10 minutes reading. You'll already know more than most people. Step 2. Document everything. Every agreement, every dispute, every communication that matters. Lack of evidence impacts negatively on cases and results in outcomes that would have otherwise been different. Save emails, take photos, keep records. When you need proof, you'll have it. Step 3. Consider a DR before litigation. DR methods like mediation and negotiation allow each party to communicate directly and find mutually acceptable solutions without the adversarial nature of formal proceedings. Resolving disputes early in the ADR process can save a significant amount of time and resources compared to formal litigation. Faster resolution, lower costs, better relationships. Why wouldn't you try a DR first? Step 4. Read before you sign. Cost and time are the principal considerations when negotiating dispute resolution clauses, both in domestic and international agreements. That clause you're skipping? It might determine where you'll be sued, by what rules, with what options. Spend 5 extra minutes reading. It could save you 5 extra years of headaches. Step 5. Know where to get help. While results vary by country, most people do not turn to courts and lawyers to navigate legal problems. Legal aid organizations exist in most countries: community legal clinics, online resources, government agencies. Research these before you need them. When crisis hits, you'll know exactly where to go. Step 6. Understand deadlines. Every legal system has time limits called statutes of limitations. Miss the deadline? You may lose your right to make a claim, forever. Different claims have different deadlines, some as short as 1 year. The clock starts ticking when the problem begins, not when you decide to act. Step 7. Get things in writing. Verbal agreements are real contracts, but proving them is hard. If contractual obligations are not respected, suppliers will try to leverage their monopoly power and impose higher prices. Follow up every important conversation with an email summary. As we discussed, those 3 words create a record. Step 8. Stay calm during disputes. DR processes are generally less formal and rigid than formal litigation. This informality allows parties to tailor the process to their specific needs. Anger makes problems worse. Emotional decisions lead to bad outcomes. Take time. Breathe. Think strategically. Write your angry email, then delete it. Wait 24 hours. Write again with a clear head. Legal problems are ubiquitous, and the data shows that legal problems adversely impact people's lives, with more than 4 in 10 people surveyed reporting experiencing a social, economic, or health-related hardship as a result of their problem. Knowing your rights protects you. Low levels of legal capability and issues accessing appropriate sources of help are key barriers people face to meeting their justice needs. By watching this video, you've already increased your legal capability. Keep learning. Legal systems are evolving. Technology is changing how disputes get resolved. Online courts, AI-assisted research, virtual mediations. Respondents generally perceived a trend towards out-of-court dispute resolution mechanisms. The future may be more accessible, not less. Change is coming. Here's what most people forget. You have power in the legal system. You can vote for leaders who strengthen rule of law. You can advocate for reforms. You can educate others. Voters in Brazil and Poland opted for change in their most recent national elections, and both countries saw rule of law improvements. Democracy and rule of law reinforce each other. Let me summarize what we've covered. Two major legal systems govern the world: common law and civil law. Rule of law is declining globally but can be reversed. Access to justice is a universal challenge affecting billions. Alternative dispute resolution works 78% of the time. Documentation, deadlines, and preparation are your best tools. After 7 consecutive years of rule of law declines, it can be easy to focus on the negative. But the global community must redouble efforts to expand rule of law gains in all areas. You are now part of that global community. Here's your final call to action. First, research your country's legal system today. Second, identify one legal document in your life and actually read it. Third, find out where legal aid is available in your community. Fourth, share this video with someone who needs it. Knowledge is power. Legal knowledge is protection. You now have both. The legal system exists to serve you, not the other way around. Now go and use what you've learned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.